So you just told us a whole kind of story about what your life's been like so far and what your relationships have been like so far. And it's been super volatile. You've had, would you say it's correct to say that you've had like no stability, no sense of peace, predictability, calm, like continuous like predictability in your relationships? It's been very all over the place.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like the only real good relationship that I did have was my ex that passed away. So, and I feel like I was able to submit to him in ways like he took care of me emotionally very well and stuff like that. But we were young, like really young. There was no way that we could take care of each other in any other way and stuff like that. We couldn't see each other all the time and things like that either. Like we're both in school. So
you realize that if you get the kind of guy you're saying you want, the kind of man who is going to create stability and continuity in your life, predictability, he's going to handle the business, he's going to pay the bills, he's going to make sure there aren't people coming in, because you seem like a very sensitive and kind of emotional type of person, which is fine. You're a woman. There's reasons that we're like that. If you're going to be a mother, that's a good quality. But that's why you need a man who is like strong, steady, stable, and going to provide the stability. You realize he can't do that if you're going to say to him, I just feel like I need to be able to do what I feel like is going to make me happy. If you are chasing that, you're never going to have that stability and that continuity that you've been looking for, right? Like if you're chasing feelings, he's not going to be able to, you're going to constantly be butting heads with him, and you're not going to be able to have that.
Well, could I interject for a second?
Sure.
I find a lot of men have a lot of feelings too. I mean, not to say there aren't strong men, of course there are. But you know, I mean, I dated a man who was not a feminist, and he was more in his feelings than he liked to admit, I think. And it showed. And
how did it show?
I mean, he was insecure enough that he sought validation in other women. So.
Okay.
Wait, so it's not good to be an emotional man then?
Well, I mean, because he didn't express that he was insecure, that he would bottle them up and not communicate to me what he was feeling, and then we'd argue, and he still wouldn't express all those things until something had already happened.
Now, did he tell you why he didn't express his feelings to you, of like whatever the dissatisfaction was that he said made him cheat? Did he tell you why he felt like he couldn't talk to you about it, or?
I mean, I would ask, and you know, he'd be like, well, I didn't feel validated because he's like, you're not giving me enough compliments or something like that. I'm like, I feel like I give you a lot of compliments, but you know, I'll try more, and it still doesn't stop things from happening. And that, of course, that conversation happened after he had already like done something. And so these are conversations that need to happen beforehand.
So what it sounds like to me is that he didn't have strong enough boundaries to begin with, because if he was like a man who had strong boundaries, like my husband, if he was not happy, he wouldn't just like go cheat. He'd be like, this is what I expect, and this is what my needs are, and if you can't meet that, this is done.
He would. He did. He gave me a bunch of boundaries and morals, as he put it, and I would either abide or compromise on them, because you know, I believe that we need to have those conversations. But then he was like, whatever moral I set for you is also set for me. But then obviously these things happened.
So what was it that he came to you and said, this is my boundary, that you felt like some of the things you respected and other things you compromised on? Like, can you give me any specific examples?
For example, let's see. He didn't want me to go out to the clubs with friends or whatever. Not that I was ever a very partying person. But because I did it maybe once in a month, he was like, that's too much. I'm like, well, I'm going to be surrounded with friends. He's like, I got to be there. And then I'm like, okay, hey, do you want to go with us? And be like, I don't want to go. And I was like, okay, well. And I'm like, well, then can I go with the friends? I'm like, no. And so one time he was like, okay, you can go this one time. It's just stuff like that. And another time, okay, he didn't want me to hang out with this guy friend I had for a very long time. I mean, I knew for 10 years, and I knew he wouldn't do ever anything. I mean, he's more into guys than he's ever into women. And
Wait, he was like, like he was homosexual? Yeah.
He's bi.
Okay.
But he is definitely more into men. So and I was like, hey, I'm gonna hang out with him. I even, communicated with him beforehand. I'm like, you gave me permission to hang out with this person before, so I am now communicating to you. This is someone I'm going to hang out with today. And he got really upset by that. And he was like, well, you didn't say it would be at, their place. I'm like, yeah, but all their siblings are there.
So, I mean, like, did he say you hanging out with other dudes, regardless of their sexual orientation, is a deal breaker for me? Like, did he tell you that?
Well, we, went through my friends list, and I was like, well, how do you feel about this person? How do you feel about that person? And I'm like, how do you feel about new people coming in? So we'd have those conversations.
So if he had said that, if he had said, look, if I'm going to be in a relationship with you, I don't want you hanging out with dude friends without me. Like, if it's couples and we're hanging out together, that's fine. Or if we're in a group and there's guys in the group, that's fine. Yeah. But I don't want you to, like, go off with your guy friend. How would you have reacted to that?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I didn't like it. I didn't. But that was one of the compromises.
So do you think you'd be attracted to a guy who had no problem with you hanging out with other dudes? Do you think that you would still be attracted and, like, want a guy like that?
I don't think I'd do it again. Because, I know the friends I've made, and I've not had a problem.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I feel like it all just comes down to trust. Like, if you and your partner have an understanding of, like, you wouldn't be doing anything if I'm not there, I'm not going to do anything if you're not there, or just like that understanding, it shouldn't be an issue if you want to hang out with your friends.
I think that's lies that women tell themselves so that they can do what they want, to be honest.
If I trust you.
Because if you're in a committed relationship, and if the purpose of the relationship is eventually marriage, which seems like you guys, even though you have very loose, like, boundaries about relationships, like you're very open and you're really modern about things, like, everybody kind of says they want to get married at a certain point. So it's like, you're all saying, I want a strong man who's going to lead, who's got his shit together, who isn't in his feelings, who has, if he has a boundary, he's going to be upfront and he's not going to violate it later. Yeah. But then on the other hand, you're like, but I also want him to let me hang out with my guy friends, and I want him to be okay with me dabbling with women, and I want him to let me do what I want when I want. Do you see, like, where I'm going with it? How it sounds like you guys kind of want the strong guy who's going to hold it together, but you also want him to, like, let you do whatever you want.
Well, let me ask you this. Why does a man, not wanting you to hang out with a guy friend equate to a strong man? Why does that make them a strong man?
Why do I need a leash?
Yeah. Well, it depends. Do you want him hanging out with women when you're not there?
I didn't care if he communicated. Yeah.
Now, I hear what you're saying, but I pay attention to what women do, not what they say. So if you say, I'm fine with my boyfriend going off and hanging out with his girl who's a friend, it doesn't bother me. What I'm hearing is that's not a guy you really want. That's not a guy that you're actually into, who really, like...
Maybe you're speaking for yourself, but for me, that's not what happened. I loved him. I wanted a whole future with him.
But not enough to not hang out with the guy friends. Right. But not enough to not
remember, I compromised. I didn't hang out with guy friends unless he said, this is okay. And I even went out of my way. I'm like, hey, meet them, assess them for yourself.
Right, I agree.